So Elliot's a big Bearcat fan, loves his Bearcats. The Cincinnati Bearcats right now in the Big 12, 3-1 in Big 12 play, and they're going up against 3-1 Colorado coming up this weekend. Now, teams ahead of the Bearcats right now, Texas Tech also 3-1. You have 3-1 Kansas State, 4-0. You have two undefeated teams, obviously, in Iowa State and BYU at this point. The BYU, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this for this weekend. Very strange. BYU is at UCF. You have 7-0 BYU. They're a top 10 team in the country, and yet somehow, some way, Jacob, they are a 3-point dog at UCF.
I saw that.
It does. That's why, again, or they're not top 10. I'm sorry, number 11 in the country. A number 11 team, BYU Cougars, again, undefeated, sitting atop their conference, going on the road against a 4-loss UCF team, and somehow, some way, they are a 3-point dog. This is why everyone out there that says the Bearcats don't have a chance, they don't have a chance to win this. I don't think the Big 12 is good at all. No. It's not a shot at UC. I'm just saying that I don't think it's as easy or simple to say that they don't have a shot. If the team that's sitting atop your division right now, your conference right now, is 4-0, they're the number 11 team in the country, and they're a 3-point dog going up against a 4-loss UCF team, this division can't be for real. I'm not buying into the Big 12. So for me to say that Cincinnati doesn't have a shot, right now they're very much so in the mix, and a win over Colorado on the road is going to get people's attention. Satterfield's offense has with Sorsby at quarterback, they've been lights out. Obviously, their deficiencies are on the defensive side, but that's very similar to what we're seeing with Colorado. They are horrible defensively, very good offensively. This is going to be a shootout, and the winner of this is very much, has a path to get to the Big 12 championship game. I don't think there's any team ahead of them right now that I'm like, I definitely fear that team. Maybe Iowa State, who's number 10 in the country. Kansas State, obviously, right there as well. They're 6-1 overall. But I do think Cincinnati has a legitimate shot to get there if they take care of business against Colorado on Saturday night.
And if UC beats Colorado, they go to Ames in a few weeks and have a chance to just control their own destiny against Iowa State. Assuming BYU picks up a loss elsewhere, they would have one loss and a head-to-head against the other team with one loss. And if UC wins out, I would have a hard time finding a way they don't go.
Big 12 gets an auto, right?
It does.
So
it would be a 4 bye. It'd be a first 4 seed.
Okay, so how about that? I'm not going to sit here and say that I realistically think that UC is going to win the Big 12. But as Kinner just said, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. I think this is classic old Big 12, heavy power offense with a defense that's subpar. Score 45 a game, allow 40 a game. It's just that old Big 12 mentality. Obviously, things have changed now in college football, but at the end of the day, I think UC has a chance. I think Sorsby in the offense can beat just about anybody, at least can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody in college football as of this very second, offensively speaking. Defensively, they would get shredded against most teams outside of the Big 12, and in the Big 12, they would get shredded as well. But I will say this, and I kind of mentioned it earlier in the week, Scott Satterfield, it's a big testament to him that they're able to look like this, 5-2, and they look competent. You're one loss to Pitt away from being ranked. I think if you beat Pitt in that game, the Bearcats are absolutely ranked right now. Texas Tech, they lost because, again, respectfully, our kicker can't make kicks. So if you have a kicker that can make kicks and then you're able to hold on to a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter against an undefeated Pitt team who's going to be ranked probably top 15 when the new rankings come out next week, then yeah, I think the Bearcats are having a hell of a season. So good for them, good for everybody involved. It will be an absolute titanic struggle in Colorado on Saturday. My mom is there. My mom is already in Colorado right now,
nice.
Getting ready to watch the game, so she's ready to roll. 10:15 kickoff. Doesn't get better than that.
No, that rocks.
10:15 kickoff's the best. I don't think I've seen a UC game kick off this late, so that will be very exciting. But yeah, what's the spread, by the way? Do we know
6.5 Colorado.
6.5 Colorado. I might take the Cats on that one. I might take Cats plus 6.5.
I am already on Colorado minus 6.5, parlayed with Travis Hunter interception and offensive touchdown. So about to eat that lunch.
How about that? Deion's come out this week and said that he loves Cincinnati. He has great respect for Cincinnati, and I think he was very kind to our football program. So I'm ready to roll, man. I think this would be a fun game. This is the game that I had circled on the year before the season started. If you can win this game in Colorado against Deion Sanders, I'm going to call this season a win. No matter what happens, you win that game.
This would lock up a bowl game.
I don't care.
Right?
This would lock up a bowl game. Yep, this would be the 6th win. So yeah, I'm very excited. The hype of the Cincinnati football team couldn't have had a bigger turnaround since that week 2 loss or whatever,
Yeah,
week 2 or 3, week 2 loss to Pitt. It couldn't have happened any better, so good for everybody.
Yeah, no, this is a massive, massive game for both Satterfield and the UC program, I feel like. This is the most national attention you're going to get until, if you win, maybe that Iowa State game gets a pretty big pub.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a big-time national spotlight game for two programs that are trying to build up to a point where you're actually a respected competitor in college football. And I think that's honestly where the whole Big 12 is right now. I don't think there's any team in the Big 12 that is getting the respect that I'm sure they think they deserve for winning that conference. I think everyone kind of unanimously puts them at the bottom of these 4 bye weeks and chalks up that first game as a loss to an SEC or Big 10 team. And I just don't know that that's necessarily the case. Certainly the Big 12 hasn't been the best this year, but I think there's a lot of really good players. And if UC can find a way to beat some of those really good players, then that means UC is a decent enough team. Yeah. And I think they could make some noise. But, this Colorado game is absolutely massive, and we don't want to look all the way ahead to Iowa State yet, but Rocco Beck's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. So we'll see how that game goes and how they're able to continue this entire season until we crown UC Big 12 contenders. But, I think this is a massive, massive test, kind of like we talked about with the Eagles, measuring stick game for a team in Cincinnati against a team elevated competition compared to who you've beaten so far. So certainly a big, you'll learn a lot about this team, whichever way the game goes.
By the way, if they were to beat Colorado, beat West Virginia, UC at Iowa State November 16th, will we get College Game Day?
I can't tell you because I don't know the rest of the schedule. If you filibuster for about 2 minutes, I'll be able to tell you.
I think Iowa State is a very good football team. Do I think they can win a national championship? Probably not. And this is where college football's always kind of lost it for me. I think
no shot.
I think no shot.
No shot.
Who we got?
Tennessee at Georgia.
Okay, all right. Well, then I tried. But college football, this is where it's always lost me a little bit because I do think it's just so top heavy. That the 10th ranked team in the country is seemingly it's almost impossible to see them win a national championship.
Yeah.
But saying that, I think the conference is better than what people thought it was going to be heading into this season. I think that's fair. I just think that the bottom of the Big 12 stinks. Bottom of the Big 12 is very, very, very bad.
And you brought up a good point about Cincinnati because the other day I thought it was a little far-fetched as well, and I think you see some of the responses on social media that everyone thought it was crazy to even be talking about the Bearcats having a chance to get there. But the bottom line is Pittsburgh's a top 25 team, a very good team. They're still undefeated. We saw that last night, losing 28-27 the way that they did. It was the way that they lost that highlighted that, and we didn't pay attention to actually how well they played against a Pitt team that is still one of the best teams in the country at this point. So then you highlight that. Texas Tech, 44-41, that was the final there. Cincinnati put up a ton of points in that one like they do. They are a very good offensive team. Texas Tech is 5-2 as well. That's a good football team. You don't have losses against bad teams, and you're beating the teams that you should beat, and you had chances to beat teams that maybe you weren't favored to beat as far as that goes. So with Colorado, you beat Colorado Colorado's a brand win right now. Colorado maybe not be the biggest sexy brand out there in college football, but with Deion there it is. It's going to get people's attention if you see, especially led by Sorsby, and that offense can get a win on the road at Colorado. They're going to have their prove-it games coming up. They're going to get people's attention with the win over Colorado on Saturday night. Then they're going to be tested in a few weeks again when they have to go to Iowa State and at Kansas State. They have a shot. They do have a shot to get there, and I think that offense gives them that. It's not like they're an average offense with an okay defense that has, won them quite a few games. Offensively, they're explosive. They have a legitimate shot to, score points on anybody, and I think that gives them a good shot. I was surprised at how many people mocked it, but when you really start breaking UC down, I don't think it's as far-fetched as what many might think that they could get there. Is it likely? Obviously, I'm not putting money on it, but I do think they have a path to get there. It'll be a fun follow to see what they could do against Colorado tomorrow night.
It's not far-fetched if you believe they can beat Colorado at Iowa State and at Kansas State. If you win all 3 of those games, they're a playoff team. And the hard part about looking at the schedule at this point is what happens if you beat Pitt and Texas Tech or Pitt or Texas Tech. Then you give yourself probably a little bit of wiggle room in these 2 games, especially Texas Tech being a conference loss. If you would have taken care of Texas Tech, then you give yourself wiggle room in these 3 hard games in order to still have a shot at making the Big 12 championship. I think at 3 conference losses, you're resorting to rooting for chaos for a chance to get into the conference championship. And you're only at 1 right now, so this, maybe losing to Colorado, you'd still be able to claw back into it if you beat Iowa State and Kansas State. But it's just a tough position that UC's put themselves in with those 2 losses in games that they really should have won.